Well, hello OCN and YouTube. Today is going to be the second part of the video series for sleeving. Today we're simply just going to go over some tools. I'm both going to go over the normal, everyday tools that you're going to need to have for pretty much any sleeving that you're going to do. And then I'm going to go over a small category which, kind of fits a lot of different tools. But it's mainly for the advanced sleevers, the ones that are going to do their own cables. I'm going to provide links for all the tools that I use. My philosophy on tools has always been try to find the cheapest tool you can with the best quality. Sometimes that does mean you're going to end up having to pay a little bit more for it. But in the long run, that'll produce excellent results. As you guys have heard me say kind of like a mantra for a while now, it's, patience. I almost forgot my own mantra, that's terrible. It's patience, the tools, and the knowledge. If you have those three things, you're going to make this an amazing experience for yourself, and you're going to have no problem doing it. So without me blabbering my mouth anymore, we're just going to jump right in. As you can see here, all of the tools for the basic, everyday sleever is right here. It's not a lot and it's not very expensive. We're just going to go down through the list of tools here. I'm not going to spend an incredible amount of time on them because I'd like to try to not make another half-an-hour video because I think most of you guys might have fell asleep during the last one. But we're just going to go ahead and jump right in here. One of my favorite tools that I use when I sleeve and that allows me to do very good results is the flat edge snipper. You can actually look on eBay, and they're called flush side cutter, if I could actually speak English, which, believe it or not, it is my native language. You can get them on eBay really cheap. I'm going to be including a link for Amazon. What's special about these, if I can get it in the camera here, if you can see here, it has a straight edge snip. When you're actually cutting your sleeve or you're cutting the paracord, it is way better to use a snip than a scissors. And I'll explain that more when I actually get into the sleeving. Needless to say, it does a very sharp edge. It cuts it perfectly straight. And it's just a really great tool to have. Most of you guys probably have one of these laying around in your house somewhere. It's a normal wire snip. Now, what's not so great about these is they normally have a diagonal bevel edge, and it's slightly rounded. For really good results, you're going to want to get a straight one. This will work. I'm not going to deter you from using it, but like I said, it rounds the edges a little bit, and it's just not the greatest to use. So, and these are cheap. I think they're around $7 on Amazon with free shipping, and you might be able to get it a little bit cheaper on eBay. Of course, the next tool here, and this is great for removing heat shrink. That's pretty much about all I use it for. I might strip some wires with it sometimes when I'm bored, but your basic X-Acto knife. I use this to remove the fan headers and the USB cords when I sleeve them. The only thing I did to modify your basic X-Acto knife here is, see if I can get the camera to zoom in on it. It's not going to want to. Well, as you can see here, oh, there we go, the tip is slightly broke off. Just the tiny sharp cutting tip. What that does is allow me a flatter surface for when I need to press it down into those pins so I can get them evenly instead of making a sharp indent on them. And it's really easy to snap the tip off. Just be careful so you don't shoot it into your eyes. You just snap it down. Of course, we're all familiar with the sleeving, the Lutro sleeving tool here. Again, most of you guys have already watched the guide for it. It simply allows you to get those awesome results on the heat shrink. It's really easy to use. You guys will be seeing me use it quite a bit, and if you're wanting more in-depth, you can watch the 22-minute long short demo video that I made about it. The next tool is an extractor. This is for your round pins. Your round Molex, male and female. This one was actually bought at MDPC. it's a real simple design. You put it in, you pull out the pin. It's really easy. You can get one that's like this, but it has a barrel and it's actually connected. You can get those as cheap as $4 from a bunch of different places. Again, I'm going to be putting links for everything I'm showing you guys here. But the one from MDPC is really simple, it's really cheap, and if you're ordering from there, you might as well pick it up anyway, because it's the Save Your Wallet edition, which it does, and it works perfectly fine. And you get to sleeve it and make it look pretty nice. The next tool I have here is your other extractor. This gets out every other pin, for your EPS. It's a very simple tool. There is a ton of kits out there. There is Sunbeam ones. There's another one that has the barrel design. I don't know the actual maker of it, but there is an actual Molex model number to this. It is 11030044, and Molex makes these for their pins. It's to their design, and it is by far, I'd have to say, the best remover. I've never had a pin that I can't remove from this unless the pin's damaged in some sort of way. This one I got from Nils from MDPC, and he makes a nice little message on his. This one actually says Lutro, the Minister Edition, which heartwarmingly he gave me. You can get them many different places if you don't want to get it shipped from Germany. I think FTW PC sells them. I also put a link in there for the cheapest one that I've found in the US. It's from Allied Electronics. I think they're out of stock right now, but they stock up pretty quick. It ends up being somewhere around $18 or a little bit more for shipping. But hands down, that is the best tool. You're going to want to pick that one up. And again, I'm not slamming Sunbeam or anybody else, but I've never had any problems with it. It's really sturdy. I've never broken one. It'll work perfectly. Now, I don't know, this is probably the most expensive tool that I have right here. Now, this is from the jungles of the Congo. Now, you need this. Now, I'm completely lying, and that was a really lame joke. This is just your basic Sharpie pen. The reason I have this is because you pair it up with this really cool thing called paper. I don't know if you guys have heard about it yet or not. But you can make your own pin-out designs. F. Shizzle actually did this for me. He sent me some pins and he made some nice little drawings. But this is basically what I do when I'm depinning a cable. I'll make a diagram so I know for sure that I don't have to double guess myself where the pins actually go. So if you're gonna start in on a project, you might as well remember where things go the proper way. Make a diagram, you won't be sorry. Now, scissors. Scissors are, yes, they're needed, and yes, they're not needed. I use them when I cut heat shrink for SATA cables. I sometimes cut some sleeve or trim it a little bit with them, but that's a rare occasion. Now, you can get scissors in a bunch of different ways. The one I actually have sitting here isn't the one I normally use a lot, but like I said, I don't really cut the heat shrink very often. This one is this one I stole from the kitchen. Don't tell my wife. I think she's been looking for it for the past month. I would get in trouble, so keep it our secret. It works really well. I sent you guys a link, or I'm going to be giving you guys a link for a fabric or precision scissors. This is what I would recommend a little bit more. Yes, it's a lovely pink, and I think I stole this from my wife as well. But it's a precision sewing and fabric scissors. Now, the reason I suggest those is they have really sharp blades and they run really smooth. So if you're going to cut heat shrink, you're not going to want it jagged and you're not going to want it to pull. You're going to want it to slice right through it very easily. They're really cheap. I think they're like $5 on Amazon, free shipping. So pick yourself up one. It's way better than stealing, your wife's or your mom's scissors and then getting in trouble about it later. Next up is your masking tape. This is, I don't really use this for anything other than really paracord, but it does find uses every now and then. Paracord, you definitely need to cover up the connectors, otherwise it's going to pull on the, the little strings on the paracord and it's going to look terrible. If you're sleeving with a smaller diameter sleeving, or if you're just having a hard time getting it through, go ahead and cover up the pins a little bit with a small piece of this and you will be ready to go. Works very easily. And you can also use it to number your wires if that's if that's the method that you want to do to go ahead and depin. It works really well too. Lighter. Basic Bic lighter. Now, you can get the blow torches, but I wouldn't suggest using it for the purpose that I use it for. I simply use my lighter to melt the ends of the heat shrink, or not the heat shrink, but the sleeving a little bit. The reason I like the slow flame is I can move it as close or as little away as I want. I feel that I can control this a little bit more. Every time I've tried to use a blowtorch, the heat actually goes way further than the flame, and it just makes it really hard to because you're just barely touching that heat or the sleeving. You just want to melt it just a tad. So I find that these work very well, and they're really cheap. You can get these for 50 cents at any gas station. Now, the heat gun. I wholeheartedly suggest getting a heat gun. In my mind, it's not an optional purchase. If you want to do any kind of colored heat shrink, you will put soot on the heat shrink when you use a lighter. I've heard people say you can use the blue part of the flame, or you can use a match, or whatever. Please don't mess around with that type of stuff. Just get a cheap heat gun. You can get them, man, Amazon, Frugal, eBay. Get a cheap one. Don't use a hairdryer. They normally don't get hot enough, and you're not going to be able to get the precision that you want. You'll just melt stuff. Get a heat gun. I got this one for, I think, 15 bucks. I was really lucky when they came out. For some reason this was really cheap, or from a different seller on Amazon. This one is now $37 on Amazon. It came with a nice case, and it came with a reducer. Now what a reducer does is gives me a little bit more of a precision area to hit it up with. It's also a 2-speed. That means I can put it on high and it'll blast pretty hot, or I can put it on low and I can, watch my sleeving a little bit, or the heat shrink a little bit better when I'm, shrinking it up. So the reason why you want 2 speeds is you want to be able to control the shrinking of the heat shrink so you can get it straight. And I'll explain that more when we get into the sleeving. You can get a cheap one, and it doesn't really matter. Please, for 2 things that you need to get the 2-speed ones, and get one that comes with a reducer, or buy a reducer for it. You're going to want to use it. It'll help you, and I'll explain it a lot more when we actually get into sleeving, and I'll show you how to use this. So, heat gun, very necessary. You must have it. You will thank yourself for purchasing it. All in all, I do not have the total on my head right now, but this is your basic setup. I wouldn't suggest tackling the project without the actual necessary tools that you're going to need to do so. Again, you need patience, you need the tools, and then you need the knowledge. Any kind of woodworker or any kind of shop guy would tell you that there's always thousands of different ways to do a project. You can make a lot of different things work, but what it comes down to is that necessarily the right tool for the job? You could make your own depinner with staples. You could go break apart an antenna for the round Molex. You could use a piece of plastic for whatever. You could use a big knife for a lot of this stuff. But hands down, if you have the right tools, it makes it easy, it makes it fun, and then when you're all done, you're not looking at it wondering what you did wrong. The little things do make a difference, and when you have the right tools, it makes it a breeze, it makes it fun, you won't get frustrated trying to get the pins out, and it just makes it a fun experience. And this is your basic setup. Again, I'll be posting all the information that I've went over on this. I'll be posting some links where you can buy it, and I'll break it down a little bit more in text. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clear all this away, and we're going to jump into the expanded optional tools of what you'll need. and what you'll go through. Okay, so here's your setup for the advanced sleevers that are going to want to make their own cables. For those of you that are going to want to, you know, replace cables, and then testing your power supply. And again, these are the optional tools for you. You don't need to have these. These are just for a little bit more of the advanced sleever. Of course, you're always going to want some sort of soldering setup. This is really pathetic looking. I don't have a very expensive solder gun. I haven't, to this point, really saw a need for a really expensive one. Although, as I get further into this, I'm sure I'm going to want a, you know, variable resistance or variable heat one. You know, for those of you that do solder and those of you that are going to be getting into the more advanced, most of you guys already know how to solder. So you guys can feel free to buy whatever soldering setup that you would like. There's really, don't get an incredibly cheap one, but at the same time, go for as your style permits. I probably won't do any soldering setup or showing you how to solder, because if I had to be completely honest, I'm not the best solderer. I'm still kind of learning the whole art myself, but I do good enough just to be dangerous. So moving on to the next tool. This is a little bit under some controversy. Yeah, controversy. Whatever. You guys get my point. Your crimper. This crimper was from FTW PC. I love this crimper. It works well, but here's the deal. There's two crimpers that are pretty much a standard for what we're doing right now, which is making your own cables. There's this one, and then there's the MDPC crimper. I will be doing a guide later, and I will be using both crimpers. I do know for a fact that when this crimps a pin, the little two pins on the end that actually hold into the insulation, this just crosses over itself. Like, it just goes like this. The MDPC one, the key on it, makes the wire bite in to the insulation. Now, that is going to hold it better. I don't care who you are or what your opinion is. Well, I do, because I care about all of you. But the bite like this, kind of looks like a heart or little glasses. That is always going to be your best bet. It's going to hold into the insulation, it's going to be more rugged, and it's just going to have more to grip onto. So I'm going to be posting links for both of the tools. It's completely up to you, but in my opinion, the bite is what you're going to need. That's the difference between a really strong crimp and a crimp that might work but might also give out at one point in time. So I would suggest the MDPC one. I don't have one of those because, you know, during the time when I was buying my crimp tool, I didn't have the extra money to, and I didn't need an order from MDPC. So if you're ordering and you want to make your own cables and that's a desire of yours, just get the MDPC one. It'll work. It uses the bite. It's what you're going to want. Again, I'm not denouncing this tool. This will do just fine. But if you want top quality, the MDPC one is the way you're going to want to go. Now, of course, this is a multimeter. I will be going over a guide on how to use that just to test your power supply. I'm not the most, you know, advanced when it comes to how to read voltages and everything, but it's pretty straightforward if you want to test your cords to make sure they're working right. This over here, this is a heat shrink jig. If you have tubing heat shrink, or if you have your SATA heat shrink that's not pre-cut, this is the way to go. You can cut multiple pieces and they will come in the same way every single time. Now, this is normally paired with a gigantic knife that goes with it. Both of these are really cheap. If you're even semi-decent at woodworking, you can make one of these. You simply put the heat shrink in here and then you cut it along the line where you can see where I've cut many pieces. This will help you out immensely. You will always get a straight cut. This is the best way to go. It's very cheap to make. This probably costed me 10 cents because I had wood laying around and I already had the screws. I take that back. I had to buy the screws and they were about 10 cents. Very easy to set up, not very complicated, and this will last me for as long as I ever need it. If I ever want to adjust it, it would be easy just to move the spacers. Of course, you're going to want some sort of ruler. The reason I didn't include the ruler into the first setup for the basic users is, I'm going to show you guys a trick where you really don't need one. Now, you shouldn't have to measure out your cables if you have guidelines on the pins, and I will show you where to do that. But if you're going to be making your own cables, you are going to want to measure them, and you are going to want to make sure that they're all the same length. So any ruler that's flat will work just fine, and most rulers are flat to a certain degree. One more thing that isn't here that I would recommend getting is a self-adjusting wire stripper. Now, you can get those on Amazon, you can get those on eBay. The one I'm going to show you guys is the one that was recommended to me, again by F. Shizzle. He got his at Fry's, and it's actually really cheap, and the shipping is, really reasonable too. I think it was like $4 or something like that. I don't have mine with me right now. It is actually on its way. So, and what a self-adjusting one will do is it'll automatically read the gauge of the wire, and it will strip it perfectly for you, and then you can get the perfect amount every single time. That does not mean you can't do it by hand, but for ease of use, a self-adjusting one will work just fine, and I think it's $13 I ended up paying or something like that. Why not? You know what I mean? Have a tool that's going to work, and it's going to make your life easier. So that's all I'm going to go into right now. This is your simple advanced setup. Now, again, everything is subject to opinion. You can have a billion extra other tools that are going to help you out. I'm just trying to show you the tools that you're going to need to buy to start and get into it. By no means is this definitive all you're ever going to need, but I would like to think that it's going to cover most of the bases. So that is really all I have for right now. I hope you've enjoyed watching the guide so far, listening to my goofy voice, and putting up with my really dry humor. So that's all we have for today. That's just your basic tools. That's all you're going to need. You might add some stuff here and there, but that's going to be your own personal style of sleeving. If you have any questions about anything, please feel free to ask. If you have any mod questions, please feel free to ask as well. Sometimes it's going to take me a little bit to get back to you. Most of the time I'm jiffy on the spot, but I am a full-time minister, so I have a lot of stuff going on, plus another mod that I do as well. And those of you that are on YouTube, if you have questions, please feel free to ask. I'll try to get back to you guys as well. And the next guide is going to be about sleeving. We're going to go ahead and jump right into MDPC sleeving. I think that's what most of you guys have been waiting to see. It's going to be a good time. And we're just going to keep on with this. As long as you guys have interest and you guys want to keep seeing these guides, I have no problem making them. And I would hope that somewhere along the line that you get inspired enough to try to jump into doing a full mod yourself. There's nothing like having the feeling of stepping back and seeing a completed mod and thinking to yourself, I made that. I did that with my own hands. And there's really no excuse that anybody that has the time and patience and tools and the knowledge to do so can't do a really good mod. It doesn't have to be a big expensive one. Even just a little simple one produces the same results. So I thank you for your time. Please continue to follow, and thanks.